Hey there, you've wandered onto the VUC, a weekly conference produced by IP Communications and VoIP Community. We would like to thank Simwood.com. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is from onsip.com. You can get a URL that people can click to call you at onsip.com/getonsip. Speaking of SIP, we use the best PSTN and SIP conference bridge in the world, zipdx.com. Our website at vuc.me is on bluehost.com. And thanks to Voxbone for our world local rate dial-ins. Okay, and this is VUC 623 for December 9th, 2016. I don't know why Periscope's not working. I'll leave it on a little bit longer and see if there's any reason to continue it. Otherwise, I'm just wasting a bunch of bits. Our guest today is someone who was in the first year of VUC. You know that we've been going for almost 10 years, and I'm looking at this, the fact that I don't have my camera on, so here we go. Someone who was in on our very first year, Stefan, who just stepped away from his camera. Stefan Wintermeyer. Stefan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, Stefan, and it's great to see you. And you and I met because you wrote a book called, forgive the terrible accent, Das Asterisk Buch.
Yeah, that's correct.
Close enough, right? That book was, of course, translated, and in 2007, in our very first year, you've written, so I know you wrote a book on Ruby on Rails. What books have you written? Let's get through that first.
Basically, Asterisk and Ruby on Rails. Yeah.
That's it? I thought maybe there was a whole wealth of...
No, different versions, different languages, but that's it.
Right. Well, it's an accomplishment. My wife has written books in French and German. She's French, and the fact that you go through the process of translating and getting a book that was written originally in German. It may have been one of the first books for Asterisk, by the way, written in German, was it?
It was one of the first, yeah, it became the standard at least in German.
The reference.
Yeah, the reference. I never made it for the English one. Already was way too big for that.
But it is a good book, and I recall that it was successful. And the other thing that we remember you, and I begged Tim Panton as a fellow...
By pure coincidence, I have it here.
Oh, great. Let's see it. There it is.
That's it.
And by the way, that's great that the versions are on there, 1.2, 1.4. What is the current Asterisk version? Like 12 or something? 10, 12?
And this one is the English translation.
There you go. Practical Asterisk 1.4, 1.6.
Yeah.
I think the last version I installed was 0.9 actually, but I'm not 100% sure.
And this one, which is from Jim, that's one which made it. That's oh, I even have a signed one here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Is Jim still writing this book?
Who? That would be
Jim Van Megelen.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him writing that recently. I haven't seen Jim for a little while.
Yeah, the last iteration was done.
That was
by
with Life. Was that
Madsen.
was that work was with Life as well?
Yeah, there were three of them. There was Jim, Life, and somebody else. I can't remember who it was. Christian, I think. Was it Christian Kleinhofer?
Yeah, I think it was Christian.
Stefan, do you have your Ruby on Rails book handy just in case? Let's see it.
Let me see.
Just by chance, you never know.
That's my first Ruby on Rails book in German. That's bad lighting. And let me see if I have the English translation. No, I don't.
Yeah, it was Russell Bryant.
Yeah.
Great.
But you can, if you're really interested, you can find it on Amazon.
Right. All right. Next thing. Should we put him through the how did he get into technology? I don't think you answered this question. Yeah, Stefan, we've been asking people. This was your first visit. We didn't have our stuff down, but now we've been doing this for 10 years. we have a little thing we do. And we like to ask people how they actually got into technology in general and how they got into VoIP. And that'll lead us into our topic for tonight anyway, or today for the people who are like in California, and it's 9 a.m. What brought you into the tech world? At what age were you interested in technology, and how did that manifest itself?
Okay, let's narrow it down to computers, if that's okay, because technology is a wide range. My first computer was ZX81. It's I don't know how old I was. I want to say 8 or 9. It had I was lucky. I had the additional RAM, so I had a whopping 16 kilobyte of RAM, and that was it. So I had a tough time to get the money for it. And I remember that I always wanted to have to buy an Amiga, but that was totally out of my range money-wise. So yeah, that's my start. And then I started programming first, obviously in BASIC, and then other languages, and that's it. It just stick.
That's for computers.
Sorry?
That's for computers. Then what?
Yeah. And about VoIP, you should have sent me this question before.
What's that hard?
I honestly don't recall why I started with VoIP. I don't know. Probably some sort. No. I do recall. Yeah. In ancient times, I had a travel agency. I organized scuba dive trips. And that was the time before the internet, and I had that great idea of doing some sort of voicemail box where people could get their new offers again before the internet. Today you would do that with a web page, and so I had to create a configuration for that, and that was my start with voice over IP. In those days, I used ICDN, which was super modern then, yeah, obviously the voicemail box wasn't that much of a success. Web page became much more popular.
Okay, I want to talk about your company even before we get to the new thing. But before that, I want to talk about AmuCon, because we have a fellow, what's the right word for this? Anyway, a fellow participant. In fact, Tim, you and I may have even met for the first time at AmuCon with Jason, right? Was that I think so.
I don't know. I want to say we might have met somewhere else first, like Madrid, but I wouldn't be sure, to be quite honest.
We were both at Madrid, and apparently James Bodie was at Madrid, and I didn't meet him. And there were hundreds of people there.
I was definitely in Madrid. I don't remember meeting you, Tim, in Madrid either.
No, I was too busy hanging out with Mark Spencer.
Right. Well, anyway,
I was too busy hanging out with Ed Guy, actually.
Oh boy.
How is Mark anyway?
Mark's story is he's gone off into aviation. He's going to.
Yeah, I see his postings on Facebook every now and then. It's all about planes.
But the thing is that he's basically, he was on this show, what, 6 months ago?
6 months ago, yeah.
He's basically going to do to avionics what he did to PBXs.
Okay.
That his view is that, hugely summarized, is that the airframes are good for 30 years, but the avionics is only good for a few years. So he's going to do a bunch of open source avionics, which you can use to update your airframe. So you can buy a small airplane, light aircraft that's in decent condition, but where the avionics is just so old that nobody wants to fly it. Okay. And then you replace the avionics with Mark's open source stuff, and and you're good to go with a wonderful plane. That's a huge summary of what he said, and probably inaccurate in some detail, but roughly right, I think.
Does he code it himself, or because I remember early Asterisk code?
I didn't ask him that. We should have asked him that, shouldn't we, Randy?
Yep. Anyway, I wanted to move on to a MooCon, which was a thing that there were two, right?
No, three.
Three.
I honestly, yeah, three, at least three.
You may or may not
2009.
we won't talk forever on this.
12.
We won't talk forever on this, Stefan, and I you may or may not want to revisit this. I just wanted to say that those of us who were there, I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody in that this really was a great meeting, and I know I was at two, maybe I think I was only at two, and one of them was in Berlin, and that was great, and there was one in Rostock, and Rostock had all of the Digium people were there. I mean, when I say all, I mean Matt was there, and all of the guys who you generally associate. In fact, there's another Matt. There's whoever, the general crowd, and that was fun. I want to give a shout out especially to the two guys who did the rum drinks or whatever that was, the jugglers, whatever that was. I thought that was brilliant. You did a great job on that. I think you're really amazing for creating events, and that's why I'm really sorry that didn't go on, because there was a lot of interesting things going on there. I met a lot of people with whom I'm still friends. Tim and I and Jason Gecki, I want to say Gecko, but it's Gecki, right? Who's with, I guess, Cisco now. But we drove over, and I just wanted to share the memory that these guys started talking about all this JavaScript stuff that I had absolutely no idea. I'm glad I wasn't driving, because I would have fallen asleep. But they were on and on. But I just was so blown away by the intellectual, technological talk that was going on. And when we got there, you had, let me just say one thing that I think is important about this thing that I remembered, was that you had the guy from Opera, and I don't remember his name, but he's the main dude. What's his name?
Jon von Tetzner.
Right. And
I don't know how to pronounce it right. Probably it's a different pronunciation. I'm not sure.
But he is and he had his son or daughter, I don't remember. He had his child with him, and he had to stop his talk he cut his talk a little bit short because his kid was with him. But I mean, it was just so fantastic to have this guy who had nothing to do with Asterisk or Camillo or, none of that. It was just, that's one of the things that I thought was great. We got a chance to meet him, and everybody talked to him for a few minutes. And I mean, Opera, it is what it is. I'm sure the 175 users would be thrilled to.
Just for your information, I'm using Opera right now.
No, I was joking. I was impressed to hear what he had to say. And again, this is to your credit, Stefan. Tim, you want to say anything about a MooCon? I think you should.
Yeah, I was just going to say it was a really good, interesting crowd of people in a good environment, and Rostock was a revelation to me. I'd not been in Eastern Germany before, the former East before, and so it was the trip there was that whole thing was just great, and my abiding memory of it was a bunch of guys in the local tavern playing sea shanties on their on the squeeze boxes, and actually a really good choir. And then I suddenly realized that they were halfway through the evening and a few beers, I suddenly realized they were playing Yellow Submarine.
I knew you were going to get to that. That was
just great. And it was an excellent thing. And there were some really, really good people who went to that. So
are you going to pause for breath? That's probably enough talking about what happened 6 or 7 years ago.
I want to add something because I guess people who are watching this and don't know Amicon are asking why I'm not doing it anymore, and I would love to. I really would love to. And every now and then I think about a new conference location which would be perfect for that. But my big problem is I don't like to sell slots for sponsorship, and doesn't mix with how to finance such an event. It just, I can't cross that bridge. Until I don't have the money for that to just pay it, I won't repeat it. But it really, I love the event. It was always a great crowd, and it was always fun. It just today at the conference you have to make certain deals, like selling keynotes, etc. And I'm just not willing to. So that's just for everybody who's asking that question. It's just my stubbornness.
Well, maybe we can get you involved in some a new initiative. I don't know. We are a true community. I mean, the people that are in the Hangout today, and there are probably about 50 other people who are in the periphery who would agree with me that we could probably figure out a way to get all of us involved in some new event, or to attach ourselves to some existing event. Anyway, I was also going to mention that where are you based, Stefan? You're not in Berlin, right? You're outside.
No, yeah, I'm right now. I'm in Koblenz, which is an hour drive from Frankfurt.
I played in Koblenz in 1974. Where were you?
In the next town.
Oh, you weren't even alive. Come on.
No, I was born in '73.
Okay. Yeah, right. Well, maybe your folks came to the concert. Anyway, long story short.
It's going to be one of those days where we just get stuck in the past.
We know.
To talk about
We're going to
new stuff.
You ruined my segue. I was about to segue into the present now. So this is the past, yes, and it was great fun. And it's important to note, though, that there is a community, and that Stefan is one of the members, and that everybody here is, and that there are many, many other people involved in it. So we're going to move on to, well, I was intrigued, Stefan, when I contacted you, to hear that your newest project, which is on GitHub, by the way, right? Yeah. It comes from lessons you learned from VoIP. So why don't you walk us, by the way, if you want to, I'm sorry, I'm not good at chronological order. If you want to talk about your company first and your products, you're welcome to do that, just to set the stage, and then we can move on to the current topic. No, not particularly.
It's okay.
Gemeinschaft, right?
Obviously, no, I'm not doing VoIP anymore. It's
okay.
That whole VoIP thing is gone for good.
Well, it's not much of a thing anymore, is it?
It's just, you know, in my opinion and in my experience, whenever you set up a PBX or some sort of VoIP system, there's always going to be a situation where the client is not happy and you are not happy. Mm. And it's always, or most times, it's not your fault. Like, you know, the phone is buggy or whatever. And I just got so annoyed by that, because if you did a good work, but the solution is not as the client expected it to be, it's just a bad situation. And that was the main reason I left the whole VoIP business. And I don't know, you guys are still in it. Has it changed? No. So.
Well, for example,
pose this question now. Do you think there are unreasonable expectations on the part of clients? Are people looking for magic bullets still?
Yes, and the big problem, in my opinion, is that people are used to a PBX which has certain features, and then they buy a new PBX, and they expect that the new PBX is the same but better. But all features, all keys, all, you know, the weight of the phone headset has to be exactly the same. And obviously that's not going to happen. There are small differences, like different voicemail box, or I don't know. And that is, in my opinion, an unsolvable problem.
Okay, I thought somebody was going to take the thread here. What we need to do now is move into what you're doing now. And we were talking about the GitHub project, and also, and I am loath to try to pronounce it, by the way. So let's get to that.
It's vutuv.de. I'm not a power user of Google Hangouts, so do I have a chance to show the webpage? Or
yes, you can do that, or we can do it. It's on the left. There's a menu. If you mouse over on the left side, it should be the second thing. I think it is the
screen share. Okay.
Screen share. There you
go. Okay, let's take this one here. Okay.
Yep, we see that.
Got it.
What do you see? Let me
see your page.
Okay. Do you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, a vutuv is like you can compare with LinkedIn to make it easy. It's to connect people, and this is this is my account. So this is James' account, and because I know him and we are here and I have the power, I can just verify it. So now everybody who's using the system knows this is a real person, this is a human, and he actually owns this account. If I want to, I can say, okay, this guy knows SS7 and probably VoIP. And you see the ordering gets automatically, so if somebody else upvotes it, it gets sorted. You have a following and a follower system. I don't like the idea of LinkedIn where you have to connect, like in Facebook, you have to connect to somebody and then he has to say yes or no. That, in my opinion, gets to awkward situations where somebody doesn't confirm it and then for whatever reason, maybe he's on vacation or he forgot it or whatever. And that's, in my opinion, an invitation for an awkward situation. So I created this with this Twitter idea. You can follow people and people can follow you. And in the future, you can give people you follow special access. So my example always is, I want to give the teachers of my kids my private landline number. But I don't want to give that to my business associates. So I want to create a system where that is going to be possible. And that's going to be in the next version. Right now, it's what you can see here. Let's go to my account. This is the experiences, like a small VC. These are links to homepages, addresses, obviously vCard export, social media, etc., etc. It's all open source. So if you want to, you can have a look at the source code, which is at GitHub. It's MIT licensed, and it's free, and it's fast. The aim is not just Europe and US, but many or all development countries. And for them, it's nearly impossible to use LinkedIn because it's too big. It loads like forever. Plus, it's very expensive. I have a developer on my team who is from Zimbabwe. Let me create. Let me show the camera again. No. How can I deactivate the screen share? Oh, no.
There you go. You got it.
Okay. I have a developer on my team who's from Zimbabwe. And if he wants to go to a webpage like LinkedIn, it costs him about 50 cents because he's using a phone and they only have prepaid data plans. So for him, just opening a LinkedIn profile, he really has to think about it. Is it worth that 50 cents? And most times it isn't. So obviously, And my aim is to have a very, very lightweight solution, which doesn't cost so much and which is fast. And it's so we don't have any premium accounts because I think it's just a bad way of doing business. Google doesn't have them, Facebook doesn't have them, so you can live by advertising, and that's, in my opinion, fair. But I don't want to sell premium accounts. So that's it. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, you said that you mentioned to me that you learned things. What were the lessons learned from VoIP with regard to this?
Good question. My main lesson, and that it took me like forever to realize that, was latency. Like if you make a call to a guy in Sydney, Australia, then you have latency problems. And it's not a problem you can solve, because you probably have fiber, and still on fiber from, let's say, Frankfurt in Germany to Sydney in Australia, a simple ping takes about a second. And I don't expect light to become faster anyhow in the next months. So light speed is the limit we are dealing with, and that's not going to change. And what most people forget is that but the web has the same problem. A web page in Australia is always going to be slower to use than in New York or San Francisco. And that was a lesson I learned with VoIP, and I transferred it to vutuv. It's actually a lot of work to make that page so fast as it is. And if I'm lucky and get enough revenue, it's going to become even faster, because then I'm going to set up servers on all continents. Which makes the network connection faster, because it's not the package doesn't have to travel a long way. The shorter the way in the network, the faster web page will show.
The question I have in my head is, this is a project on GitHub. So is this a case of people installing their own?
No.
I mean, is there a federation, or it's just there because the code is there because it's open source? I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah, it's there because
for people to see the source.
Yeah, I believe in open source, and many people are asking me the question, why are you that crazy? And like putting the source there, everybody can copy it. Everybody can copy the system, do it to him or herself. And I simply don't believe that's going to happen. It's like, I believe that if Facebook put their code online, open sourced it, it wouldn't change a thing for their business. Because it's just, if you're smart enough to make a better Facebook, you don't need their code. You just write it yourself new. And if you're not smart enough, the copy of it doesn't help you anyway. So that's my stand on open source. For me, it's I like to show people what the code does to gain trust. I think it's a nice way of getting ideas and sometimes even bug fixes from the community. But it's not like I'm not living in fantasy land where I believe that the community presents me with new features on a daily basis. That doesn't happen. It's still the same core team of developers who are doing that. It's open source. Everybody can see it. Everybody can have a look at our roadmap, at our current issues, bug fixes, etc., etc. It's just a more open way of developing software.
Do you think that people will, or do you hope that people will join the effort and contribute code, or are you looking for that, or does it matter? What's the?
Obviously, I'm looking for that, but it's not. I'm not expecting it. It has happened in the last couple of days, a couple of times, but not like big chunks of code. So I don't expect it. I hope for it.
The fact of exposing code to the view of the public, to cite your Facebook example, which is great. I mean, Facebook has the numbers. That's the only reason it's important, in my opinion, is that it has, however many billions of people on it. And most of those billions of people don't know what a platform is, let alone code or anything else. They don't care about that. They're there because they're there. They're there because it was one of the first things, and they signed up, and now they're there, and their friends and grandma's there, and all that. So I totally agree with you on the idea that if Facebook published their code, other than a lot of snarky people saying, "Oh, this really sucks. Look what you did here," besides that, there would be little effect. There's not going to be a Facebook competitor based on someone taking their code and going, well, I could do that, and I'll change this and this, and I'll change it instead of blue, it'll be green. That's not going to happen. On the other hand, if there were to be found a serious security flaw in something that you've published, there's a chance that someone could say, hey, did you see in this function that there's this thing happening? And that would make it certainly easier than talking to Facebook about a fault, a vulnerability in their code, because we don't have their code. So yeah, there's that. I have a question, by the way, from Jay that I want to kind of scroll off here. Let me get back to it. Jay is big on governance and policy decisions. So he asks, how will governance and policy decisions be made regarding the platform? It's a good question, but it's a kind of a general, how do you see that? In other words, when he says policy decisions, I'm not sure what that would be enumerated, unless Jay wants to chime in. Go ahead, Stefan.
Okay, let me put it in VoIP terms. I'm the Mark Spencer of vutuv.
Right. It always is going to come down to what you want and don't want on your platform.
Yeah, it's just it's open source. If somebody has if somebody thinks he can do it better, copy it, fork it, do it better. Welcome. But I don't expect it. And I hope that some developers will find time to create new functionality or fix bugs. But it's pretty much as in the Asterisk community, with the example that I never liked the licensing model of Asterisk, like the dual licensing. That's like, for me, in German we would say it's nicht Fisch, nicht Fleisch, which means it's neither fish nor is it steak. And so
I love that's a great expression. I want to absorb that. That's fantastic, and I'm sure there are equivalents in every language. That's excellent.
So what is the equivalence in English?
Neither fish nor fowl.
There you go.
Okay. So yeah, I never liked their dual licensing model. I think it's a show. It's not open source. In my understanding of it. And
I think you're absolutely right, Stefan. And it leads to all kinds of problems. It slows things down. Take, for example, the huge amount of time it took them to implement the Opus codec on Asterisk, which was due to all these kind of worries about legal things.
Yeah, there were very specific reasons why that didn't happen, which at some point I might divulge. But anyway, so I also had a tracking a little bit back. You said that you weren't interested in having a federation of independently run servers. Did I understand that correctly?
No, the future, if everything goes right, will be a setup of servers on every continent.
But will they be all run by you, or will local?
No.
Okay. And so you're in the that's interesting, because that gets back to governance. So you're in the position that if somebody forks your code and runs it in XYZ country and builds up a user base there, because you haven't got round to doing the Ivory Coast yet, for example, and builds up a user base there, you wouldn't be able or willing to federate with that service? I mean, I know this is a long way off and it's a theoretical thing, but you mentioned VoIP, and this is a classic VoIP question, basically.
Okay. Let me think about it. Today, we couldn't, because the whole system doesn't have that connectivity. Like it is not possible technically wise. But to be honest, I've thought about that in a different perspective. I thought about that, like putting such a system in a company so that the company uses it itself, but creates a gateway to the internet so that certain information gets through that gateway, and then it would like connect to the network, let's put it that way. But I'm open for that, but I have no good technical solution for that right now. So I don't know. But if there's always possibility that somebody copies it and creates a new service, which would be some sort of parallel world. Yeah.
But on the other hand, maybe there's actually an argument for having a local version of this, in that okay, we've got regions and we got languages, and as you know, Stefan, I'm in France, you're in Germany. The French world, yeah, I mean, there are people who speak English, and there's LinkedIn, which now that it's owned by Microsoft, I immediately left for reasons I'll go into some other time. There was a European, a kind of a pan-European LinkedIn call. It started with an X. Do you recall what I'm talking about?
Sing. That's another German company.
What was the name of that? So
Sing, like in crossing. XI.
Right. Exactly. So, and I kind of got on that when I was active, just out of curiosity. But is that still in existence?
It is. Yeah.
Is it big? Is it successful?
It's not as big as LinkedIn. I don't know if it's successful. I guess it is, but I don't know.
I guess if they're still running the server, paying for servers, it must.
Yeah. So that's actually my direct competitive in Germany.
Right. So my point being that that was a Eurocentric, if I'm not mistaken, totally European.
Not by choice. It's just that LinkedIn became bigger in the rest of the world, and then they, in my opinion, I don't know. I just have to guess. In my opinion, they just made up this marketing story that they narrowed down their market on the German or European thing. Like it was their choice. No, it wasn't their choice. LinkedIn just got the bigger piece of the pie.
Right, but there is an argument for being local, in my opinion. I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily. Well, it depends on what market you're trying to reach, obviously. For the Ciscos and the Microsofts of the world, obviously you got to be international. But if you're located in a European country and you want to be Eurocentric, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It makes some sense to concentrate on that. The other thing is, are we talking about, I had over 500 connections in VoIP before I left LinkedIn completely. And I have to say that since we've been doing the VUC for over 10 years, if you take just the people who are in this hangout, including you, Stefan, right now, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people besides me in it, and then you add the say 50 other people to whom we're kind of close, you're talking about actually thousands of potential contacts. And we had most of those contacts in my directory, my LinkedIn group, which I don't know if it still exists, but I'm not in it anymore. Microsoft just disgusted me totally, and I left. But the point is, these are people who actually know each other by reputation, and it's, you know how there's the 6 degrees of whatever that is. Well, most of us know each other within 1 degree. If I don't know somebody, certainly one of you knows that person. Remember, we were talking about Michael from Poland, for example. Someone might say, well, do you know this guy? And yeah, I do. And he's authentic. So this is the validation. This is the verification that you're doing and that LinkedIn kind of does with their with their very spammy, well, so-and-so knows how to tap dance. Do you agree that, you remember those, what are they called, endorsements? Well, that was an idea that whose time came and went. But anyway, you kind of have that.
So you know, there's a whole game about endorsing people for things that they don't do.
Of course.
It's like, you know, humorous, like endorsing me for COBOL or I've forgotten what it was, but it's like, you know, just people who do hardware endorsing them for Ruby on Rails, or, you know, just like this random things that they don't do that will annoy them as endorsing them, you know. So I think it's great. I think that's a wonderful subversion of the platform.
Well, that's by the way, that's I want to add something. That's the reason why only the owner of a profile can create skills. So you can endorse them, but you cannot create a skill for me which says French.
Okay.
No, it's that because it's obviously an invitation for fun.
And yet you endorsed my tap dancing, and you've never seen it. And
because
all right, that was a joke. Jake Carpenter says, and I quote, because it's a long quote, LinkedIn is an excellent example of ownership, policy, and governance being a critical factor in overall utility. Once the ownership, policy, and governance became centered on Microsoft, the overall LinkedIn platform became tainted with the uncertainty of Microsoft's future policy and business model incentives. Personally, I think you could just say tainted with Microsoft and end it right there, because LinkedIn to me was a big directory, and we used it successfully in that anyone in VoIP was in that group, as far as I'm concerned. Only the newest newbies would not have been in that group. Anyone I know who has anything to do with VoIP was in our group. It was a pretty loose thing, actually. Group directory, a list of people, you know, I assume lots of people in Polycom, Cisco, but also people in Tropo and everything else. You know, Gemeinschaft, you were all in there. I'm sure, Stefan, you were probably in our LinkedIn group.
Probably, yeah.
You know, I mean, we weren't active at anything. It was just a list of names. But the advantage was you were able to contact people. And occasionally people would ask me for intros. And of course, I'm happy to do that based on the fact that I know people are authentic. But anyway, Jay's comment is that Microsoft tainted LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn was kind of already, I don't know. What does anybody think of LinkedIn? Before and after Microsoft.
So I miss the one feature of LinkedIn that I liked that they axed was Card Munch. I really, really miss Card Munch. I find that surprisingly few people knew that it existed, but it was this thing where it was an app on your phone where you could take a picture of a business card and it would automatically, over 24 hours, it would upload that to LinkedIn, and you could tick it off and it would then get added to your LinkedIn. So it was I've just done an exhibition, and we came back with a stack of business cards, and we're kind of processing our way through them at the moment. But Card Munch just made that massively easier, and it was a great feature, and they switched it off.
Well, I think that's a key for you, Stefan.
Do you have a GitHub account?
Yes.
Do me a favor and create a feature request.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
Oh, you don't. By the way, you don't support GitHub as a social network.
Good point. Yeah.
Just so otherwise you'd know I had a GitHub account.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Open a feature request for that too.
Okay.
Because I like the idea. I have no idea. What I don't like is the app idea, because like for at least for the near future, we are not going to have our own app, because we just don't have the time and etc. etc. So I don't know if it's possible to access the camera from a web page, but
Oh
actually
yes. Oh
it should
yes.
today. Yeah,
Yes.
it should be. So I like the idea. Please create a feature request for that.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that, but that's a great idea for sure. Let's get that happening. I should remove this. I'm going to remove the tap dancing thing, Stefan, because honestly, I would be horrible at it.
Yeah, I can see vutuv. It's a bit like Bluetooth, but with a V, isn't it? And why, Stefan, do all your company names spell the same thing forwards as backwards? There's a name for that. I can see vutuv fitting in reasonably well with Matrix, actually. It's good. Matrix is all about federation. And a big part of vutuv is this kind of replicated, distributed directory identity thing, which could sit very nicely on top of Matrix. And there was a sudden silence.
I actually agree with you, although I suspect that it would be
I'm
almost
taking
the
it
other way.
back, Tim. Tim, what's going on? How
Wait, almost the other way around, in that it would fix one of the issues with Matrix, which is that it doesn't have a strong directory service yet.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's the one thing that it's missing. And another thing that I don't think either vutuv or Matrix have is the cryptographic key management system, because if you're going to have identity, key management goes hand in hand with that, doesn't it, Tim?
I'm a huge fan of key management done well, and it's so rarely done well. Ha!
Yeah, well, no, I was handing you a golden opportunity to spout there, but yeah, I think vutuv is a very, very interesting little project, but I'm not sure exactly where it's going at the moment, Stefan. Where do you want it to go? Where do you want it to end up?
Oh, you really want me to say it?
Yes, I do. Yes. It's a difficult, penetrating questions. None of this what you were doing 7 years ago. Okay, I want to know what you're going to be doing in 2 years' time.
Yeah, and this is going to be on YouTube forever. So I wanted to become a LinkedIn killer.
Well, that's well, there's an opportunity there in that there's this huge kickback now that it's been Microsofted. But you've also got to contend with Zing as well, haven't you?
Yeah, but okay, Zing is for me like a stepstone.
Right.
I have to admit that when Zing first came on, they've been around for years and years, and I did join it. I joined it because I wanted to sell a business, but for all I know, I still have an active account there. Not very active, but the point is that I haven't heard anything of Zing. I have never seen that name. That's why I had to ask you what the name was. I haven't seen nor heard, hide nor hear, as we say in English, from Zing since I first joined it, which might have been in 2007 or 9. So I didn't even know if it was still alive. You say it is, and I believe you.
You should check your spam account, your spam folder, because normally they send as many emails as LinkedIn does.
Well, I probably deleted the account because eventually I do that, because I join everything. And so I join everything, and then I get these emails from something domain name I don't recognize saying, "It's been a few weeks since you've been around." And then I go, what was this even, So I probably deleted that. but I should go take a look at it again. Anyway, long story short is that I haven't seen it anywhere. You know, you see things, you see Slack.
It is very active in Germany. It is very active in other German-speaking countries, which was a big surprise for me too. That like many new vutuv users are coming from Switzerland and Austria, which I didn't expect, but it's happening. So for a thing, and I actually I don't know how they are pronouncing it. That's their market. As I said, I don't think it's by choice.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not that familiar with him. I've asked Jay Carpenter to come in because he's not dialed in, but he was listening on YouTube, I guess, and he'll come in. He's got some interesting questions, and he's always has interesting questions, but this time he's agreed to join the Hangout, so we'll get him in on that. Anyway, I just think it's funny that there's this big thing that exists that I haven't heard a word about in like 7 years at least. I should go through my oldest email account to find my, when I first joined, I probably saved all that stuff and see what it was all about. But that was a specific thing in mind. The LinkedIn, my association with LinkedIn was totally different. I kept it 100% VoIP, by the way. So when friends that I knew from other things, wanted to join or whatever, we did this. I told them it was strictly VoIP, strictly telecommunications. And with that, there were a whole bunch of people. And I think that some of the people here today are still in the group, just that I got kind of sick of it. Okay, we got Jay Carpenter joining us. And Jay has
by the way, Tim just created the issue. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Jay, let's go. Let's see if we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Randy?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, awesome. So I think what you've created, Stefan, is awesome in the sense that it really, really addresses a fundamental need in terms of creating a harmony among all of our disparate addresses. And I think that is what Matrix is also trying to do. But for you don't know me, but I've been involved in the naming, addressing, and numbering space for about 15 years now or more. And this same issue came up in the initiative to create public enum. So the technology was awesome. And the use case was awesome in that you could all of a sudden create this harmony among our disparate addresses, but the policy became the stumbling block, as well as the business models. And what I hear is that you're facing the same sorts of issues. So, I think this group really has the horsepower to make a difference here. And first of all, Stefan, I applaud you for your creating this initiative, but there are some powerful and subtle policy issues around governance, around persistence, around how do decisions become viable, and how do you govern this thing? So that's my 2 cents. That's what I was trying to communicate on the IRC comments. So what do you think about that, Stefan?
You have to ask me a concrete question.
So the concrete question is, when vutuv is launched and all of a sudden someone is posting something that's considered either offensive or a threat, a terrorist threat, or infringing on somebody's trademark, how are you going to handle that?
That's a tough one. Okay, obviously, it's we are on a different scale right now than the big ones, so we don't have that issue right now, and we don't have any news feed, and I don't know if we are ever going to implement it, because I believe that Facebook and Twitter, they do a great job newsfeed wise. I don't see the need for yet another one. But we don't have it now. I'm just saying that I'm not planning on it, but I'm not saying no, because many people are asking for it, and I have not made up my mind yet about that. But we don't have the problem, because nobody can post offensive stuff now.
Well, here's another example. Let's say that Jay makes a profile, and Jay populates that profile with a telephone number that Jay doesn't really control. And I start driving traffic to that profile and inviting people to dial a number that looks like it's Jay's or somebody else's, but it's really going to some endpoint that Jay profits from, but the person that really, or the group that really owns the number,
I see,
should be profiting from.
I see where you're going, and you're right, it's a problem, and I don't have a solution for that yet. That's the reason why we do this. If you enter an email address, you have to click on the link we sent you, so that we at least know that email address at this point of time. You have control of that email address. But we don't do that for phone numbers. We don't do that for addresses. Like we don't send you a letter to confirm that the address, the postal address, is your postal address. I don't believe that's even feasible, because that's, it would cost a lot of money. Like the phone would be feasible somehow, but would be not easy to do for normal people. Like we are not normal people in this conference. Like it's I want to create a system where my grandfather can use it, and so it has to be as easy as it gets. So there, I hear you, and thank you for bringing that up. I will think about that more. And no, I don't have a solution for that right now.
Yeah, I would like to interject. I'm wondering if it's possible to verify phone numbers using an automated process where it knows. For example, one of the things that one of you just mentioned, well, I think Jay, you mentioned the case of the old game of, the Israeli number that costs, 50 cents every 10 seconds, that kind of thing. So that basically you just create a profile, and that profile, if anybody calls that number, first of all, why would anybody call the number? But if they did, they're going to be paying money for it. It's going to be a surcharge number. And I don't know what the limit is on those, but some of those are very expensive. Back in the old days, you were talking, you could lose $10 in a matter of minutes easily. And so that made a lot of money for people. But it seems to me that there are ways, there are automatic processes that you can call, APIs, I guess, that you can call to find out the cost of a number. And calling this phone number and finding out that it's $10 a minute would be one red flag that you could bring up, and that wouldn't cost much. The other thing is, and Stefan, this is directly to you. So I joined, I said I was a great tap dancer. You verified that because you know me. And I know we were joking around. Okay, fine. But the point is that who can verify? If you or your designated people are the only people who can verify, right? I mean, it's the people who are involved directly, correct?
Right now, only we can verify. And that's obviously that's a scaling issue. Mm-hmm. So we have several ideas how we can scale that, and that's going to be a big problem. First, it wouldn't be a problem if we would charge for it, because then we could outsource it. There are actually companies which offer that service, so it's easily outsourced. But that's pretty expensive. Like it will cost a couple of euros per verification. It's not cheap. So that's kind of not within our budget. So the next step would be to narrow down the possibilities, to do some sort of reference system where if, like, let's say 5 people who are already verified say that a guy is a real guy, that would bubble up in our internal system so that we can see, okay, this is very likely a real person, and then we would try to verify it. It's, you know, it's not a, I'm not talking about 100% sure thing. It's if you really want to create a fake verified account, that's possible. But we try our best, and we will add functionality to raise red flags. But right now,
that's a kind of model that's used by outfits like CA Cert, isn't it? Where you produce your identity documents to somebody who is a verifier, and that gets you started off, and then you can have community authentication, where as long as you've got a number of different people who are already authenticated together, they can aggregate together their verification power to verify other people. So it's kind of like a distributed cloud-based verification system. So as long as you've got some way of kicking it off and a start point, you can actually then grow your communities organically.
I think that is true, and it's excellent. And the other thing is maybe karma. I'm not sure how you could do karma, but that karma is a good system. In other words, where for certain kinds of things that you do, you are credited, and then you get a weight.
Yeah, and let's not forget the negative side of this. So how do you deal with somebody who is bad or is wrong? How you vote them down and out? There must be a mechanism for doing that as well.
I'm always very skeptical about these systems not being gamed. Building these systems so that they're difficult to game is fantastically hard, and people even with the best will in the world tend to encourage them to be gamed. I remember the first time I tried to buy, when we were running the phone from here, I tried to buy a code signing certificate, and we'd only just incorporated the company. And so I tried to buy a code signing certificate, and the guy said, well, I can't sell you one now, but tell you what, fill in the Dun & Bradstreet questionnaire and then call me back in an hour. So I filled in the Dun & Bradstreet questionnaire and then went back, and he said, oh yeah, you're in the Dun & Bradstreet database now, so I can issue you the certificate. So it's like, it's just this, he knew that there was something else I had to do as well. I forgot what it was, but like there were a couple of things that you could do that actually weren't very difficult and didn't require, you know, blood or passports or anything that proved I was real. But you just, it was an aggregation of.
Yeah. Let me. I hear where you guys going, and you're absolutely right. But I'm not searching for a 100% solution. I'm searching for something which is better than now. There always I don't believe in a system which can't be gamed. It's just a question of the effort. But if we find a system which is better than everything we have right now, it's worth the effort. Like the verification system at Twitter, it's not 100% foolproof either, but it's very good. So we can live with this, let's say, I don't know, 0.5% or so, fake accounts which are verified, or maybe less. I really don't know. And I'm fine with that. I don't search for a 100% solution. I know that's nearly impossible, if not impossible.
Yeah, and the way that you get more certain is you build up layer upon layer upon layer of verification, different factors. And you're right, Stefan, when you say that that Twitter isn't perfect, but it's not bad, and you can use that as one layer of your verification alongside, I don't know, LinkedIn and if you've been running these things for some time, and then you're then federated and linked to lots of other real, clearly real people, then the chances are that you are actually a real person. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's the way we are heading. But again, it's not a foolproof system. It's not 100%, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to realize that all of these systems, they're not black and white. They're never perfect. You're always going to have shades of gray, but it's the name of the game here is about being as certain as you can be that the person that you're talking to is the person that you're talking to. Because I mean, today you can go and you can buy fake passports as a fake identity.
Let me can I show you something? Because let me activate the screen share again. If I can. Okay. So again, my account. And this is already happening right now, that people are scrolling through the page and see, okay, Elixir. Let's click on that, and then they see, okay, this is all in German now. But the idea is to see people who have the same skill and who are connected. So you have one view where you see the same skill on a worldwide base or on a country base, and then you have a view where you see who is good in that skill within my peers. So we can narrow it down, and that is something I like to. Let me deactivate the screen share. Yeah, sorry for that. Where I already see that people are browsing through the system just to get an idea who is doing what and how can I find a PHP guy in my town.
What?
So, Stefan, I have a question. This is Jay. You said you had 10,000 users that populated the system within a very short period of time. I think it was like a week or something like that. But did you experience some sort of viral adoption that happened? Is that how that happened? Because that's pretty compelling.
Yes, yeah, but let's face it, 10,000 users is nothing. It is really nothing. I'm happy, but
it's not Facebook for sure.
it's not, you talked about Sing. I don't know how many people are on Sing, but I guess it must be about 50 million, give or take. So that's a long way to go. LinkedIn has about 100 million or a little bit more of 100. So the numbers I'm dealing right now are very, very small. I'm happy with them, but to become successful, we have to have a very, very steep curve to manage in the next couple of months.
LinkedIn apparently has 58 million people.
No, they have more.
Yeah, and only 2 of them are me.
Yeah, well, and none of them are me because I quit. But anyway, the point is that was just a quick Google search, 58 million. Stefan, I wanted to ask you specifically, though, what is the profile? I mean, is there a particular profile? Is this all people who are in technology? Obviously, it's not limited to VoIP. Or is it people who are into air conditioning and pipe fitting? I mean, is there a limit to what is this exactly?
It's everybody can join. I don't. There's no.
Well,
I wouldn't invest the effort for just VoIP people or just Ruby on Rails people. The community is too small.
Beyond languages and programming, this is also any skill at all, like tap dancing, for example.
Tap dancing, gardening, everything.
Okay, gardening. Okay, so, and then again, regionally, it's all over the world.
Yep.
And presumably you can search, because you just give the example, which I think is a great example of, who does PHP who's around here. Not
Yeah.
that around here necessarily means anything these days, by the way, because I've hired people who are not around here I just hire them because they're the best at what I want.
Okay, but gardening would be a good example. You want to have somebody around your town, not
100%. I don't need a
Yeah.
gardener who's in the Philippines or the United States.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
But that's bringing up a very good point, which we are tackling right now, right this week and next week. It's the problem that gardening as a skill name is translated differently to all the languages. Like you have skill names like SQL. SQL is the same in all languages, but gardening isn't. So right now we are building a system where where I can, as a German, say Gärtnern or Gartenarbeit or whatever, and English people can say gardening, and I don't know what the French say, but so that everybody puts his own skill name into the system, but in the system we match it to we are going with the English term because it's easiest. If you search for a PHP guy in the Philippines, you can actually do that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because otherwise, you would have to look up what is gardening in whatever language they speak there. I guess they speak English there. Do they or?
Yes,
whatever?
they do.
Well, they
American.
probably might, yeah.
They talk American. Anyway, Stefan, completely different question. Where are you going to be on the 10th and 11th of February next year?
Texas.
Yes, indeed. In fact, you're going to be at the, you're going to be in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
let's promote that, Stefan.
At the premier regional Elixir, I can't even say Elixir and Phoenix conference.
Yeah.
And you would have thought you'd have a Phoenix conference in Phoenix, Arizona, really, wouldn't you? But no, you're going to.
In my opinion, the wording Phoenix is not the best wording in the world, because every time I'm searching something for Phoenix, always comes up the city.
Yeah, indeed. But
move it to Phoenix.
But you're going to be in Phoenix, telling the whole world about vutuv, aren't you?
In Austin, yeah.
Sorry, in Austin.
And here it is. He said Phoenix, didn't he?
I can envision an interesting time to be had with Emil and Stefan over a beer.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Stefan, do you know Emil Ivov?
No.
Father of Jitsi, amongst other things. Yeah, he is a wonderful chap, and just looking at you, you're probably about the same sort of body mass as him. You could go and have.
You do not want to take Stefan and Emil out to dinner the same evening, I can tell you.
I'm thinking about breakfast. You know, triple breakfast.
All kidding aside, that's a very good point, James. Thank you.
I'm thinking that would be, and as I am only 2 hours away from Austin, that would be a quite an interesting outing, just in general.
Yes, you'll have to do that. Stefan, Jitsi was originally the Jitsi. It was a SIP communicator, which you probably knew about, and Jitsi turned into a video bridge. But anyway, yeah, you folks will all meet there, and that's great that you're speaking there. Give us those dates again, James, and the place.
It's the 10th and 11th of February in Austin, Texas, and I posted. Well, there's a link. If you go to the home link, on the link that I posted in the IRC, that'll take you to it.
LoneStarElixir.com.
Yeah.
Just
for the uninitiated, Stefan, just explain what Elixir and Phoenix are.
You won't believe it, but Elixir is, to make it. I won't go too deep into it, but it uses the same technology as does Erlang, and you probably all know that Erlang was created by.
Ericsson.
Ericsson. Sorry, and it was created for VoIP switches.
Yeah, telecom stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, telecom stuff, and that's one of the reasons why it is so battle-proofed and quick. So I dived into Erlang the first time when I was still in the VoIP business, but I didn't. It's very complicated, and I'm very simple-minded. So
well, you're right. It takes a very special type of person to get into Erlang.
yeah,
Very special.
So I didn't make it. But Elixir, as I said, uses the same key components. Let's put it that way. The beam, and therefore it has the same advantages. Like what my favorite advantage is hot deployment. So we deploy normally like 10 times a day, and we don't have any downtime. Thanks.
Okay. Now you're talking Andy Smith's language. He's Mr. Hot Deployment.
I'll keep talking. Keep going.
And for me, I'm coming from the Ruby on Rails world. Like 0-time deployment was like a myth. It's doable with a lot of pain, but it is very expensive, and it's still not easy. And in Phoenix, in the Phoenix framework, which is built with Elixir, it's like super simple, super easy. You can hot deploy on a whole server farm and don't have any downtime at all. And I like that feature. And I totally lost track what the question was.
Oh, well, what's Elixir and Phoenix? But you just.
Was there a question? Actually?
And well, that was what the question was. I'm just pasting the links. And
it was an invitation to explain, and I think you've done so quite well. Thank you very much. I've actually learned something myself. I shall probably spend most of the weekend looking at Elixir now.
I want to.
Yes, but I have to warn you, it is not easy. It took me quite a while, and I'm still not very good in it. But it is fun, and it gets you out of your comfort zone.
And we all know that we always do our best work when we're out of our comfort zones.
Yes, and
I'm still trying to find it though.
Having said that, I would like everybody. I'm going to turn off my camera long enough for you to see this link, to go there and subscribe, or not subscribe, but go there and join it. There's no cost and there's no danger. We're totally behind this, and we'd like to see all our friends there. And from there, maybe we can build a kernel of something interesting, because Stefan has done just that. Okay, I'm going to come back because I'm really into showing my own image, right? You can see that. Let me blink that a couple times to show that I'm actually in charge. All right, there you go. So
Tim, sorry for interrupting. I was just using vutuv, and I saw Tim Penton, but no avatar. So you have
He had to go, and he's gonna be back.
He's not real. He's not real. You know that.
Let me open this up to anyone else who may have some questions or comments. Jay, if you're still here, you're welcome to chime in. Otherwise, James, Andy, Michael, we're getting close to. We seem to be running closer to 90 than 60 minutes these days, but doesn't matter because the cost of the satellite feed is the same. So if anybody has any questions, CFDX, let's
No.
Anyone?
My comments, Randy, to Stefan and everyone else is, I think this is an awesome area for exploration and innovation, and it involves technology, policy, business models, all of it coming together. And I think this is a critical need to be addressed. So, I really acknowledge you, Stefan, and I got your commitment to create something that's of better service to many. So thank you.
Thank you. Please, if you wanted, or I know that the system is not perfect, probably it will never be perfect, but please do me a favor, and whenever you have an idea or an idea to improve something, send me an email or create an issue. That helps us a lot.
Yeah, cryptographic key
Definitely.
variables and verification of telephone numbers are probably both good ones. I think Jay would agree with me with the latter.
Absolutely. That's exactly what the IETF Modern and STIR groups are wrestling with right now for what's next in telephone numbering and addressing.
In fact, Jay,
So.
you ought to come on this show sometime and talk to us about those projects, because they're absolutely fascinating. Even if STIR is kind of got itself into a kind of not so much stirring as quick drying concrete, I think.
Did you see the glorious thing? I may have missed you discussing this because I had to pop out. But did you see the glorious thing about the new response code in SIP called 666, which is not wanted here? And the idea is that you would explicitly have on your phone, you'd have a spam button that you'd press to mark this call as spam.
Yeah.
It would go back to the operator who would register it as a 666 and never send you one from that caller ID again. Which I think it's an interesting idea. It won't get implemented because the operators make too much money out of cold calling.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Well, if I heard Stefan correctly, he is addressing that use case of that you basically want to different options to different segments of our communities.
Yeah.
So that's a key part of your functionality, if I heard you correctly earlier, Stefan, is that if somebody's trying to reach Jay and it's a family member, I want to show them different options than if it's James trying to reach Jay.
Yeah.
In a business context.
Yeah, you really don't want James to get through.
Well, I've got
Well,
the
you must.
666 code marked for James, so.
I know that James doesn't let me get through, so that's why I said that. Anyway, we're going
Yes,
to
I
be
do, Randy.
we're going
Yes, I
to
do.
well, we'll talk about that in a minute in the mature audiences. But before we get to the mature audiences segment, let me just make sure that we've covered everybody in the not mature, the immature audience. Does anybody else have any comments, questions before we terminate this session, which has gone for 83 minutes now? Anything else? Any other any new business? Oh, wait, Kathleen. Quick question about sign up. Is this is actually, Stefan, this is an important point because this was commented on before. Mrs. for women in general in German, or is there a Ms. equivalent? Stefan, you need to look at the gender issue, because what you call gender is in fact what in the French calls civil title, or your official title, which is, you know, Mr., Mrs., Ms., because everybody falls in those regardless of your gender. In other words, gender is one thing. Civil, what's the English equivalent of this? Civil, whatever. Your title is a different thing. So the Mr., Mrs., Ms. is not gender. And someone actually made a comment about that just before we started as well. That's something that needs to be probably addressed. It's just a question of language.
Yeah, and why is gender important?
Well, it doesn't matter, except that it needs, no, it isn't.
No,
It's
it
important
is.
as
It is.
title.
I want to address that. It is important for one reason.
Title.
I want to address people the right way when I send them an email.
Yeah, but that's not gender.
That's
what
not
we're
gender.
saying.
Yeah, that's a wording issue.
Yeah.
But thanks for that input.
Okay. Yeah, and it's, you know, there's nothing to be.
And you have to, I think it's best to allow people to fill that field in themselves, because you have all sorts of fun with, I mean, in Germany you have, you know, Dr. Herr Professor, and it has to be in the right order. And in here you might have the, you know, the Right Honourable, or Duchess or something, you know.
Or the Reverend.
The Reverend, the Very Reverend, even the most Reverend.
Yeah, we know one of those.
The Very Reverend. I used to, I remember dancing with the Honourable, oh God, what was her name? I probably shouldn't say anyway, even though I can remember it. But my point being that this poor 17-year-old girl was known as the Honourable whatever she was, you know, Jane Smith or whatever, which is a pretty heavy burden for somebody of that age, I thought.
Indeed. All right. Any last minute before we go to the mature audiences only?
Well, I'm just fascinated, Stefan, to follow where this goes.
Yeah.
It's a very, very interesting, very big project area, and it could go lots of different ways. And I think you're very brave launching straight into it. It's one of these, this is a bit like Matrix, which is potentially so incredibly useful, but it's actually quite difficult to do properly. So I'm fascinated to see where you're going to be in 2 years' time.
Let's not wait for 2 years. Let's talking again in a year.
Or even 6 months.
How about our 24-hour VoIP-a-thon? He can come back for that, can't he?
That's a good point, Stefan. We're going to be doing that in the next few months.
Yeah, and Stefan, we have to get you in the same room as Matthew Hodgson from Matrix, and I suspect the optimum place to do that will be at Kammer Elio World in Berlin.
Yes.
In May, is it?
Not that far, Stefan. Why don't you apply for a talk and do a talk and meet us all in Berlin, 8th to 10th of May. It's easier for you to get there than for any of us. What do you think?
Let me think about that.
Think about it. I will write you about it, and I'm putting this up with my beautiful portrait for the URL for everybody who's watching this to jump in and sign in. We will be talking to all of you very soon. Stefan, it's a great pleasure to see you again. Thanks
for having me.
Thanks for accepting the invite, and we will be hearing from you soon. Thanks to everybody who participates to the VUC of the VUC, whatever the proper preposition is. And we are going to the mature audiences only version right now.